and welcome everyone. On behalf of Intelligent Transport and GIRO, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Leah Hockley. I'm the editor of Intelligent Transport, and it is my pleasure to be the host of this discussion today. Joining me for this conversation is Christian Lebeuf of Réseau de Transport de la Capitale, RATP Dev London's Thomas Lahille, and Houari Cheikhi from GIRO, who are all here to discuss a very hot topic in the public transport industry at the moment: electric bus planning and deployment. Before we begin the conversation today, I would like to take a moment for each of our speakers to introduce themselves. So, Christian, if I could please ask you to introduce yourself to our audience first.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Lebeuf. I'm the Executive Director of Technology at Réseau de Transport de la Capitale. Réseau de Transport de la Capitale is a PTO based in Quebec City, Canada. We operate around 600 buses. We have around 1,000 drivers, and we have a ridership of around 30 million. I've been with RTC for 4 years now in that role. During that time, I started the electrification program at RTC. Also work on different programs around technology. Prior to that, I have a pretty broad experience in the technology sector. I've been a couple of years with CGI as a director of consulting, and I've been involved in different executive roles in different manufacturing industry.
Lovely, thank you. And Thomas, if you wouldn't mind going next.
Yes, so I am Thomas Lahille. I'm working as the head of planning and schedule department of RATP Dev London in our subsidiary in London. We are an operator of the RATP group. At the moment, we operate around 1,000 buses, 100 routes across the whole London. Basically my team are responsible. The people in my team are responsible for preparing all the schedule for all these 100 routes. Same thing for drivers. So we're building the timetables, duty schedule, etc. And we have amongst those routes, of course, some electric routes as well. We've implemented a couple of years ago, or even recently for some of them. And that's the whole challenge of today's discussion, basically.
Lovely, thank you. And to round us off, Houari, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today and to join Christian and Thomas in this discussion. I would like first to thank you, Leah, and Intelligent Transport for organizing this. So my name is Houari Cheikhi. I'm Director of Business Development and Innovation at GIRO. GIRO is a leader in scheduling and operation software solution based in Montreal. I have more than 20 years of experience in technology and public transport, and so my driving motivation was always been to help the industry to move towards a sustainable public transport. So that's about me in brief.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you all of you for introducing yourselves. So drawing back around to the topic at hand, let's quickly recap where we stand at the moment. Now, governments are multiplying the targets to reach zero emission, and ongoing decarbonisation is taking place at every level in cities across the globe. So I think it's fair to say that the public transport industry is facing quite a strategic shift at the moment, wouldn't you? And all of this is new, meaning that it is even more important to partner with the appropriate stakeholders in order to move forward. And today we'll be talking about partnership and collaboration whilst planning and deploying e-buses projects. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the conversation. And the first question that I'd like to bring to the table today for all of you is, what are the key steps that organisations should undertake in preparing their operations for the integration of electric buses? So Christian, if I could come to you first, please.
Yes, well, I think obviously it's nothing new what I'm about to say, but small is beautiful, so start small. I would probably say that's the first thing you should consider. Select carefully the route that you're going to be operating with electrical buses first. Make sure that those routes are proper to operate electrical buses. Not too long, not too crowded, not too busy, and they have a good geographic element in it. Not too much steep hill, just make sure that you put everything on your site to make sure that things will go smoothly. And before putting the buses on the road, make sure you run some simulation. Make sure that you simulate with different products what you're gonna be doing with those buses on those routes. The last thing you want to have is a bus running out of energy in front of everyone while it's in service. Obviously, you don't want to have this, and I bet that Thomas and Houari and Sister Thomas definitely understand what I'm meaning here. So obviously, I think that's some of the elements. You know, this is really basic, but this is our main element that you must have, and also make sure that you evolve the people around it. Make sure you have the proper bus driver. So I guess what I'm trying to say is make sure that you create yourself a good situation. Make sure that you have the proper environment, the proper support, and you are in a good position to run those buses.
Lovely, thank you. And Thomas, anything to add to that?
I think it's really clear from Christian. The one key point I think we need to insist on is what Christian finished with, political and financial support, because of course implementing electric buses could be completely new for some operators, for most of us actually. So it's really important that to make sure the whole ecosystem around it supports the integration of electric buses, the implementation of electric buses. And of course, there is a cost attached to it. So it's important as well to materialize it, to make sure everyone's aware about that, to have a bit of communication with all parties involved, because there will be naturally a lot of changes as well. The one thing I'd say as well on my side, with the previous experience I've had over the past 4 years I've been in this company, is that I think it needs to be structured as a big project, an overall project. It shouldn't be managed bit by bit. Then, of course, there will be small projects inside a big project, but it needs time, it needs deadlines, it needs cost attached to it. So there is a resourcing needed definitely on that. We cannot just use the same people, because it will involve all these people already pre-existing. So it's key for me, I think, to structure all that properly with a dedicated project.
If I may, I totally agree with what Thomas just mentioned. And you need, I believe, start small, but scale up. And when you scale up, make sure that you involve more people and treat it as a major project. Totally agree.
Lovely, thank you. And obviously that is definitely the insight from our public operators there. But Houari, coming from the private sector, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I want to mention or to highlight the fact that it's a big project, as Thomas mentioned and Christian, and we should pay close attention to the planning of the timelines, as delivery times for electrical buses, as well as for the infrastructure and for systems, and all the upskilling and training needed will take time. We should pay attention to the planning and increase awareness within the organization that it will impact all the organization. It will take time, and it will, we need to proceed step by step and control step by step the delivery times.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. And obviously, we've spoken there about the steps kind of building up to the deployment of electric buses. But in terms of when you actually go about deploying the electric buses into operations, what are the critical aspects of project and stakeholder management that organisations need to prioritise in order to ensure their success? So, Thomas, if I could come to you here first, please.
Okay, yeah, I think it's two main aspects again. The first one is, and Christian discussed about that a bit just before, it's involving people. It's a human question again, as most of the project for operators, for the bus industry, we're talking about people. There will be a lot of training involved on the driver, on the engineers as well. It's something not to neglect, because it is part of the process of integration. And also, let's not forget that these people will still need to carry on with their day-to-day business. So it may have a knock-on effect basically on the current operation, on the current production. So that's something to integrate as well, it's important to develop people. It's important to have people that actually acknowledge the fact that it can be beneficial for the business, it can be beneficial for the local authority, whatever, depending on who you're working for. But I think the people side of things, it's something critical, because if you don't get the buy-in from your own people, it will be really difficult to implement something that will work at the end of the day. After that, of course, on the technical side, there's a lot of elements, I think, that should be considered. But the one thing I would say, again, based on my own experience, it may not work everywhere, but I would say if you have the time to do it, take some time to do a lot of testings and a lot of definition, because it's really, really important not to mess things around at that stage. And Christian mentioned it again, in terms of which route you want to identify. Why do you think this is the best route? I think there's also a key element at the moment, which is the evolution of the technology. So make sure when you select your providers, or when you challenge your providers, you're aware about all these possibilities, all the changes, the recent changes that have happened. Just to give one simple example, when we implemented in London our first electric routes 7 years ago, there's now been a deterioration of the batteries of around 30% of those batteries. So of course it does impact the whole system after that. And if we cannot plan that properly, if we cannot anticipate it as operator, as local authority, of course there will be a lot of challenge that we will need to face and find a solution for at the end of the day. So yeah, a lot of technical aspect, but I think taking the time to define what exactly we want and for which purpose is the key here from a technical point of view.
Lovely, thank you. And Christian, I can see you nodding away there. So what are your thoughts here?
Well, definitely, I definitely agree with all Thomas just mentioned. Over here at the RTC, we came up with something we call the electrification equation. So basically for us, it's many things. Electrification, you need to have some infrastructure to which you're going to be adding all the charging system, to which you're going to be adding the rolling stock, the buses. But all this is multiplied by the HR effect. So it's multiplied. You take this sum and you multiply it by the human resources you're going to be involved in there, and there you got your electrification equation. So I think that definitely put the momentum or the importance of having the right people involved. And it's a multidisciplinary team. You need to have people from technology, people from operation, people from infrastructure. So you have multiple moving parts and different people. So it's a very complex thing to put together, but you need to put it together in order to have success.
Fantastic, thank you. And then Houari, just to round off the thoughts here, what would you like to add?
I think Christian and Thomas mentioned that we need the right expertise and sufficient capacity to drive forward this transition to electric buses. I think sometimes we don't have enough team or enough expertise within the organization, so we need to rely on a strategic partnership and networks. We need to work with public transport organization like RATP, APTA, or QTIC. We need to look to build a network of expertise that can help to move forward and to upscale our internal team. Because it's complex a project, and we need to bring everybody in speed in order to increase the awareness again. That it will take time, it will take skills, and we will need to put in place systems. So this is all an ecosystem that need to be put in place, and we need to upscale our organization in order to adopt the ecosystem in the right way.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And we spoke previously about starting small, scaling it up, and in the context of these larger scale deployments, what challenges can arise during implementation, and how can these challenges be tackled in order to support both smooth integration as well as accelerate the growth of electric bus fleets worldwide? Now, Thomas, I know obviously RATP Dev London is operating within the city, but there must have been quite a significant increase in terms of scale. So could you share your thoughts here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a really relevant question because especially in London, where we have a lot of constraints in terms of geography and structure. So the first question that comes to my mind when we ask this question is where do we get the power from? And sometimes this is a question that is being forgotten in the equation. Of course, it's good to have, at least when it is the plan, it's good to have electric buses running, operated. But how do we switch from, taking the example of London, from 0 buses being electric to 7,000 buses being electric, and all these without impacting the rest of the population? So the main thing is access to the electricity. I think more than the power available, it's also how do we get this power available to the operators. In London, for example, we have really dedicated garages, really tiny garages. So sometimes it requires to dig roads, to have cables under the road, which may affect, of course, the situation about other routes where passengers are taking their bus and won't necessarily understand what's happening. Sometimes as well, you may have restriction in terms of power available, and it will affect some other shops because their production of power available for a certain period of time will be restricted to supply the power to the operator. It may also cause a lot of issues. So I think the question of the power, the availability of the energy is critical. And this is something that definitely needs to be anticipated. There's a lot of other things I could say, but I think that's one of the key points I wanted to highlight here.
That's brilliant, Tamar, thank you. And I'm sure building off of those plenty of other points that you'd like to say, Christian, you must have some thoughts here.
Obviously, that's totally correct. I have some other thoughts on mind, and you'll see now a little bit the more technical side of me. One of the main elements is that introducing electrical buses introduce a lot of technology. Technology we tend to take for granted too often. And one of the main challenge with all those new technology is version management of all those technology. You see, you have a bus that is smarter and have many software in it now those days that talks with a charging system that has also many software on its side. And you need to make sure to put in place, a strategy or a way of doing this process to manage the upgrade. We had an experience over here where we weren't aware. The bus manufacturer upgraded the software in the bus, and suddenly the charging system was not talking anymore to the bus. So I'll let you guess what happened. Okay, so you don't want to have that kind of situation on a big scale. We were lucky; we weren't on a big scale. We were in a pilot phase, so that does show the importance of what Thomas meant and what I mentioned earlier. Start small, but you need to update and adjust your process to that reality. And it's not natural for bus manufacturer to do so. The auto industry is more mature regarding this, but not the bus manufacturing industry in North America. They're not there yet, and that's a big issue. And that's also an issue with our maintenance staff. Our maintenance staff are not used to deal with software updates. That's something that's more of the IT side. So that's why we need to have a strategy to put more IT people in that process, because IT's been involved with that kind of software management element for many years now, and we have strategies, but those strategies are not known to the maintenance people maintaining the buses. So that's one big challenge.
Fantastic, thank you, Christian. And Houari, what are your thoughts to add here, given that you're coming from the solution provider solution provider point of view? Yeah,
and I want to add to the technical issue that Christian raised, the importance of the data usage, how we have the structure to get the data, the relevant data from the bus and how we will analyze the data and monitor the data. This is very important because when we increase the fleet, we need to understand very well the consumption of vehicles and the degradation of the batteries, and all those. This data is in the area where we need to access to this data, and we need to use advanced algorithm or tools to analyze the data, and have a clear understanding how the buses are behaving. And this is very important, to put in control, the operations, and also to have accurate scheduling based on the real life of the buses, and not only on the specification, initial specification of the bus manufacturer.
And if I may add, I totally agree on Houari statement here. Definitely, it's key to have a good planning, because you need to introduce in your planning, if it's required, time for charging the bus. That's not a reality with diesel bus or hybrid bus. You don't need to put in the planning, and the planning must be correct if you want to be able to deliver the service correctly. And also need to anticipate the electric consumption of the batteries. You need to make sure that you know how much state of charge, how much battery left there will be after a certain time on the road. And if you're not meeting that target, you're going to have to act on it as an operator. Either you're going to have to switch the bus or whatever, but you're going to have to act on it. So wrong planning is really, really costly. And that's why you need to have a partner, instead like GIRO, who can help you out in this, definitely.
Just to put light on what you both said, because I think it's really important, and give an example in the same time. We have routes here in London that operate 24 hours, 7 days a week. So they never stop. So, and in terms of planning, this is a massive challenge, because of course, when you have a route operate only between, let's say, 5 in the morning and even 1 in the morning the next day, you would still have 4 hours to charge all the buses. Let's consider you have all the power available in the world, you have all the space available in the garage, then wonderful, that works. When you start touching one of these factors, which is either the space available or in your garage or the power available at any one time during those 4 hours, are you actually able to charge all the buses so that at 5 in the morning they're all back to 100%? Or when you have some buses running during that period of time, how do you manage that? And this is where the complexity, and also the challenge, the nice challenge of what we do at the moment is really exciting, because we have all these constraints to take into account and find the best solution, keeping in mind that the best solution today will not be the best solution tomorrow, considering all the evolution in terms of technology, but also in terms of constraint of the operator or the local authority, etc. So I think it's really valid point.
Fantastic, thank you. So we spoke briefly, I think Tamara, you mentioned this first about energy management and supply, and you also touched on it a little bit there as well. So what are the energy management challenges that are associated with operating large electric bus fleets? And what strategies can organisations employ to effectively manage and optimise these energy costs? So Christian, if I come to you first, please, sort of from your insight from RTC.
Well, you see, energy management can be look at different level. You can look at it at the bus level. We can look at it globally. If you look at it globally, definitely you're gonna need some solution to manage your energy demand, and you need to partner up also with your energy provider. Thomas mentioned, the issue of getting their energy. Well, we're lucky over here in Quebec. We don't have too many issues with that because we have plenty of energy so far for the moment. And luckily for us, it's clean energy as well. But nonetheless, you cannot charge 600 bus at the same time of the night without causing some, a little a little issue with your energy provider. So obviously you need to manage that element correctly. And in order to do this, you need to sort of level your charge demand. So you need to do peak shaving of your energy demand. And in order to do peak shaving correctly, you need software to do so that will distribute the charging. So the main challenge here, and it's a planning challenge, is provide the proper amount of energy to the proper bus at the right time. Does the bus need to be charged fully? Perhaps not. So if it's not required, why should we do so? You need to make sure that you charge the right bus at the right time with the proper amount if you want to have a good energy strategy.
Brilliant, thank you. And Tamar, anything to add to any thoughts to add here?
No, maybe just to complete, it all starts with definitely planning and scheduling, and I think that's why also companies like GIRO basically naturally will go into that topic and try to develop their own tools. But it's also interesting to see from a bigger point of view, a higher point of view, number of software flourishing on the market simply because there's something new and everyone's trying to find the best compromise and the best solution. Sometimes it's too specific, too little. There will be just the software will only deal with one specific thing. So again, it's potentially one advice if ever you are an operator, you are a local authority and willing to change. It's important to take into account what Christian mentioned earlier, all these different aspects, all these different software working together, because some of them may not at the end of the day, and this is definitely not something that you want. So it's really important to have a global picture about everything that is happening in your operation with EV buses.
Lovely, thank you for that. And Houari, just to add your final thoughts to this question.
Yeah, I mean, we in GIRO believe that energy management and optimization is key in electrical buses and should start from planning through all the ecosystem, as Thomas mentioned. In the planning and scheduling and in operation and day-to-day management and deployment management, we should take this into account. So we integrate different algorithms to optimize the energy in scheduling and to create different scenario, even in the planning phase, to have different scenario, what if scenario, and then we integrate also in the daily tools and depot management tools, features that guarantee the optimization of the use of the energy, of course. But energy management is broader than only scheduling and operation. We need to integrate with different systems like smart charging systems and other systems to make sure that the system communicates and we are sure that what the optimization proposed as a plan of a charging is respected in the day-to-day charging management system to be sure that we have the best optimization possible of the usage of the energy. I wanted to add also that the training of the drivers is key because driving efficiency has a significant impact on the range and the charging needs for electric buses. So training the drivers, give them the tools and the processes to support them to maintain an optimum driving, to guarantee that what we plan, what we schedule, is respected also by the drivers.
I don't know for London, but for us, the weather is also another major element. Today we're having snow and freezing rain, and that has a major impact on the autonomy of the buses. So the energy management of it is very tricky because we're unable to have the proper amount of energy regeneration because we have bad headwind. We have an issue that since the road is sliding, we don't have the same way. The bus don't behave the same way. We don't have the proper adherence to regenerate. So we cannot count on regeneration today. That definitely impacts the bus operation. So that's another element that we need to put in the equation when we operate the electrical buses.
Yeah, absolutely. And whilst we don't have the same type of snow than what you may have, the weather is not perfect all year long in London either. So it may be fresh, and yeah, we also face that situation where basically during winter time, for instance, more especially, we know we will struggle a bit more, and we need to readapt our schedules basically, or we need to readapt our batteries, or we need to readapt few things around just to make sure basically we can still operate our buses normally.
Yeah, which is, I mean, here we see that it's just highly important to have these different scenarios in scheduling, and taking into account different factors, snow and other factors like high temperatures as well, and to have this scheduled before and to know what is the amount of energy that we will need for this scenario. When we put this scenario in production, which will be the impact. And if we have this upfront in the planning and scheduling, then we will have more control on our operations.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, sorry to complete again, but this is the phase of anticipation. What we said previously, if there is time to anticipate all that, this needs to be planned, because this is most of the constraint or the difficulties that an operator or local authority may face on a day-to-day.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And we've spoken a lot about sort of technology, software. Obviously, just now we've been very much about planning and scheduling. But in order to support the integration of electric buses, what kinds of software ecosystems are required, and how do they play a crucial role in the overall success of the transition to sustainable transportation? So, Tamar, if I could come to you first, just to share your thoughts here about some of the other software ecosystems that are really, really important.
Maybe I'm forgetting a couple, but I think the planning side of things is the crucial part, the one we've just discussed. There's also the smart charging system, the ones that can help you maximize or minimize the power available to charge your buses when the buses needs to be charged, for how long they need to be charged. Will that work? Will it be the most efficient way to actually use your power available? For me, that's really the two important things that needs to be considered here. But I'm sure Christian and Houari will complete that.
Well, yeah, that's a good starting point. Actually, that's an excellent starting point, Thomas. But I believe there's a couple missing. And one of the main missing is everything regarding telemetrics. That you can have good planning, but you also need to see what's happening. So telemetrics is really important in electrical buses, because you need to know what's going on in the bus in real time. And data is really key, just like Houari mentioned earlier on. That data is worth a lot to operate. And you're going to be getting a huge amount of data from electrical buses. So you need to make sure that you structure yourself correctly to be able to handle that kind of data. That's a new reality that you need to prepare yourself when you operate a large fleet of electrical buses. The other element as well, I believe that's really key, is a depot management system. If you have a large fleet, you need to make sure that you position and correctly in your depot the bus regarding how much energy will be required, who's going to be going out first, who needs to be recharged first, and you're going to be positioning the bus and your depot based on those elements. This, unfortunately, only a technology can handle it. And what I mean by that is only a computer can handle that. It's too complex now for the human mind to handle all those elements at once. So you definitely need to have a software system that will be handling this. And the other element as well that comes in the equation, you got so many parts and software in there that you need to have a good integration strategy. You're going to be exchanging a lot of data between different systems. So that's another element regarding your architecture. You need to take into account, how am I going to do this? The standard that do cover this, like VDV or OPCC, but standards are not totally mature in the electrical buses field. So that still remains an issue. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. And finally, I think the final element you need to have in place, and mostly for safety, is battery monitoring. You need to make sure that you monitor different elements regarding the batteries, like the temperature, state of health, and different elements. For two main reasons: one, safety, and secondly, to make sure that you got the proper performance for the vehicle you have, because those are very expensive vehicles, and you want to make sure you get everything you can from those. Sorry, that was a good starting point, Thomas. I know, I had a lot.
No, absolutely. We need to build. We need to build. No, that was great, Christian. Thank you. Houari, do you want to continue building upon Christian's point?
I have nothing to add except, what Christian mentioned in the beginning is that even for the existing systems, you need to upgrade them. You need to make sure that the existing systems take into account electrical buses specification and manage the state of health. So from planning to the KDVL systems. So you need to be sure that the systems manage the state of charge for electric buses, can export this data to the other systems, can integrate well with other systems. This is very important because this is an impact on all the ecosystem, not only these new systems that you will need, depend on your context and your number of buses you have, but you have to upgrade all the ecosystem. You can do it step by step, but you need to keep the big picture in mind and be sure that you have this, the last version that manage electrical buses in your existing system.
Brilliant. Thank you, Houari. And then we've spoken about which software ecosystems are necessary, but when it comes to actually implementing them, what considerations should organizations take into account when selecting and implementing these software solutions? So, Christian, if I can come to you first for your thoughts here.
Well, that's some basic rule, make sure that you don't, how can I say that? Quality is really important, obviously. Make sure that you have a solution that is robust, that meets the current existing standard, but mostly, and Thomas did really mention it, make sure that they have the capabilities to evaluate, to grow in the future, because electrical buses will be changing a lot in near term and mostly in long term as well. Things will change. Make sure that you don't get yourself in a locked position. I won't mention the town, but there's a town here in Canada that put everything in the same basket with a certain provider, and unfortunately, that provider went under bankruptcy, and they are having now a very difficult time operating their buses. So that's another element to take in consideration. Choose wisely your partner. Choose wisely which software you're going to be putting in place. Make sure they have a strong base. Make sure that they have a roadmap in front of them and they know where they're going.
Brilliant. Thank you, Christian. And Tamar, your thoughts here?
I think what Christian highlighted is key, the question of the time. We're talking about a lot of cities in the world trying to switch from diesel or hybrid buses to electric for a long period of time. We're not talking only for the 10, 15 coming years. Of course, we don't know what the future will bring. It may well change, but at least at the moment, the plan is really to go massively for electric buses. In Europe, especially, I don't know for most of the part of the world, but in Europe, really importantly. And when we discuss about this timeline, which is potentially a 30, 40, 50 years operation of electric buses, we need to make sure as a business or as a local authority, whatever, that we have someone reliable next to us. And that will, of course, comes with everything Christian mentioned. But I think one of the critical aspects as well is the training and support we can get from them, from those people. It's if our own people have questions and cannot choose the new software that has been implemented, then there's new value, whatever the cost, whatever everything that this system can bring on the paper. So I think, yeah, the critical part, as any change of software you may experience in any company, it's even more important on electric buses aspect. I think it's important to have this support, make sure the company or the provider will have training in place, will be available if ever there is any question, any doubt, anything to fix. For me, that's a key part as well.
Brilliant, thank you, Thomas. And Houari, your final thoughts and pieces of advice here?
Yeah, I will add, you know, the experience of the provider, the experience, international experience, and from implementing electrical buses. Because we, you know, we are learning from implementing electrical buses. So it's important that the provider can prove experiences in implementing electrical buses worldwide, and provide a flexible system, modular system that can adapt and grow and integrate with different other systems, because it's an ecosystem, and you need to have systems that are open and open to collaborate, because it's a collaboration system that we need here. And flexible as well. I will add a word on the training, because it's very important, and Thomas mentioned and Christian, but training is key, because I mean, here we need to share. We need to share knowledge, how to manage electric buses. We need to share experiences. It's very important that, you know, the software provider is capable to bring his, you know, knowledge and experience and share it with the organizations. And I think this is key to be sure that, you know, we grow, we help the organization to move forward. And also, last word, I think Christian mentioned, systems should integrate on standards. But this is very important, because it gives more flexibility to the organization to change, to adapt, because we are here going from adoption to scale up of electric buses. So we will need to adapt also the systems from the planning to operation to smart charging. So we need to adapt them, depend on the type of the vehicles, type of batteries, and so on. And the technology evolves as well. So we need to adapt. System should be flexible and provide interfaces based on standards.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your insights with us today. But sadly, that is actually all that we have time for. It has been an incredibly insightful discussion, learning all about different pieces of software, key aspects in terms of implementation of e-buses. And at the end of the day, it seems to be all about the people. So thank you all so much for sharing your expertise. And I'm sure I can say on behalf of those watching that it has definitely been a key learning experience. On behalf of Intelligent Transport and GIRO, I would first like to extend my thanks to Christian, Thomas and Houari for such a fantastic discussion. And I would also like to take a moment to thank our audience for taking the time to watch our conversation today. We hope to see you again soon, but for now, thank you and goodbye.